Great Hall of the Galactic Coalition Council stretched for nearly a kilometer. Thousands of representatives from hundreds of species filled the curved seats that rose like a mountain around the central speaking platform. Light from distant stars filtered through the transparent ceiling, casting strange shadows across faces that ranged from almost human to completely alien. Ambassador Chen Wei stood alone on the platform. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. Behind her, the blue and green flag of Earth hung without movement in the still air. She had stood in this exact spot many times before. She knew what they wanted. She also knew what her answer would be. "The Vrexian Dominion has taken another 12 systems," said High Chancellor Vorix. The insect-like leader of the coalition leaned forward, his compound eyes reflecting Chen Wei's image 1,000 times. "They slaughter civilians. They burn worlds. And Earth continues to do nothing." Chen Wei nodded slowly. "We are aware of the situation, High Chancellor." "Aware?" Vorix's mandibles clicked with anger. 200 years we have fought this war. 200 years we have asked for humanity's help. Your ships are powerful. Your weapons are advanced. Yet you hide behind your borders and watch us die? The chamber erupted in sounds of agreement. Species that normally hated each other found common cause in their frustration with Earth. Chen Wei waited for the noise to fade. She had learned patience in her 60 years of diplomatic service. "Earth extends its sympathy to all victims of this conflict," she said. Her voice was soft but carried to every corner of the massive hall. "We will continue to provide humanitarian aid. We will continue to accept refugees. We will continue to maintain neutral shipping lanes for medical supplies and food." "We do not need your sympathy," Vorix said. "We need your fleet." Chen Wei's expression did not change. Earth's position remains unchanged. "We will not participate in military action against the Vrexian Dominion or any other power. This war is not our war." A representative from the Kessari Republic stood up. His blue skin flushed purple with emotion. "You speak of neutrality as if it is virtue. But neutrality in the face of evil is cowardice. The Vrexians will not stop with us. Eventually they will come for Earth too." "Perhaps," Chen Wei said, "but that day has not come. Until it does, Earth will remain neutral." She gathered her documents and walked off the platform. The shouts and accusations followed her through the great doors and down the long corridor to the human embassy. She did not look back. In her private office, Chen Wei sat down heavily and closed her eyes. Her assistant, a young man named David, brought her tea without being asked. He had worked with her long enough to know when she needed it. "The same as always?" he asked. "The same as always," she confirmed. "They want our ships. They want our soldiers. They want us to win their war for them. Would that be so terrible? The Vrexians are monsters. Everyone says so." Chen Wei sipped her tea. "Everyone says so. But I have read the classified reports, David. Do you know what the Coalition did to the Vrexian homeworld before this war began? Do you know why the Vrexians fight with such hatred?" David shook his head. "Neither side is innocent," Chen Wei said. "This war has been going on so long that both sides have committed terrible acts. If Earth joins, we become part of that cycle. We become killers too. Our hands stay clean only if we stay out." Thousands of light years away, Supreme Fleet Commander Thrax stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at a holographic map of the galaxy. The Vrexian was tall and thin, with dark scales and yellow eyes that missed nothing. He had commanded the Dominion's forces for 30 years. He had won more battles than any other commander in Vrexian history. But he was losing the war. "The Coalition received another shipment through the human corridor," his aide reported. "Medical supplies and replacement parts for their shield generators." Thrax's claws tightened on the railing. "The humans, always the humans. They claim neutrality, but their neutral lanes keep the Coalition alive. Without those supplies, the enemy would have collapsed years ago." "We could attack the human ships," the aide suggested carefully. "Force them to choose a side. And bring Earth into the war against us? Their fleet is unknown, but our intelligence suggests it is significant. No, we cannot afford another enemy." Thrax turned away from the map. "But there may be another way." He walked to his private chamber and activated a secure communication channel. The face that appeared on the screen was not Vrexian. It was a human face, belonging to a man who had sold his loyalty long ago. I have a task for you, Thrax said. There is a human colony on the border. New Helsinki. 40,000 civilians, mostly farmers and their families. The human spy nodded. What do you need? I need it destroyed, completely. And I need the evidence to point to the coalition. The spy's eyes widened slightly. You want to frame them for an attack on human civilians? That would bring Earth into the war. Yes, Thrax said. On our side. The humans will be so angry at the coalition that they will join us to destroy them. And once the coalition falls, we will deal with the humans afterward. This is a dangerous game, Commander. War is always dangerous. Can you do it? The spy was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. I can get coalition weapons and uniforms. I can make it look authentic. But this will kill thousands of innocent people. Innocent, Thrax laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. No one is innocent. Do this thing, and you will be rewarded beyond your imagination. The connection ended. Thrax returned to the bridge and looked at the map again. Soon everything would change. The humans thought they could stay above the conflict. They thought their neutrality made them safe. They were wrong. New Helsinki was a beautiful world. Green hills rolled toward distant mountains. Clear rivers cut through forests of alien trees that humanity had learned to cultivate. The colony had existed for 80 years, growing slowly from a small outpost into a thriving community of 40,000 souls. Maria Santos worked in the fields outside the main settlement. She was a third-generation colonist, born on this world, knowing no other home. Her daughter played nearby, chasing small creatures through the tall grass. Her husband was in town, teaching at the school. It was an ordinary day like countless others before it. She did not see the ships until they were already descending through the clouds. At first, she thought they were supply vessels. Earth sent ships every few months with equipment and news from home. But these ships were wrong. Their shapes were unfamiliar. Their colors were the blue and silver of the coalition. Then the weapons fired. The first blast hit the center of town. Maria saw the flash before she heard the sound. A column of fire rose into the sky where the school had been, where her husband had been. She grabbed her daughter and ran. All around her, other colonists were running too. But there was nowhere to go. The ships were everywhere, raining death on everything below. Houses exploded. People fell and did not rise. The screams seemed to come from everywhere at once. Maria made it to a drainage ditch and pressed her daughter into the mud. She covered the girl with her own body and prayed. The ground shook with explosion after explosion. The heat was terrible. The noise was worse. It lasted for 2 hours. When the ships finally left, New Helsinki was gone. 40,000 people had lived there that morning. By nightfall, fewer than 100 remained alive. Maria emerged from the ditch, still holding her daughter. The girl was alive but would not stop shaking. Maria walked through the ruins of her home, stepping over bodies she recognized. Friends, neighbors, family, all gone. A rescue ship arrived from Earth 3 days later. Maria told her story to the investigators. She described the ships, the weapons, the symbols she had seen. Everything pointed to the coalition. Everything said that Earth's supposed allies had murdered 40,000 innocent people. The news reached Earth within a week. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. People filled the streets in every city, demanding justice. Politicians called for war. The coalition denied responsibility, but no one believed them. The evidence was too clear. In her office, Ambassador Chen Wei watched the reports and felt her heart break. Among the dead were the families of 3 senators, the daughter of Fleet Admiral Tanaka, and the parents of the young aide who brought her tea every day. David was not at work that week. He was at home, grieving for parents he would never see again. Earth had stayed out of the Galactic War for 200 years. Earth had maintained its neutrality through countless provocations and endless pressure. But this was different. This was personal. And in his flagship far away, Commander Thrax smiled and waited for humanity to destroy his enemies for him. Fleet Admiral Yuki Tanaka had not slept in 4 days. She sat in the briefing room of the carrier Resolute, staring at photographs of destruction. New Helsinki filled every screen, burned buildings, shattered streets. Bodies covered with white sheets, row after row after row. Her daughter had been among them, 26 years old, a teacher like her father had been before the divorce. Yuki had not seen her in 3 years. They had argued about something stupid, something she could not even remember now. And then the coalition had taken her away forever. Or had they? Commander James Wright entered the briefing room with a tablet in his hands. He was the head of Earth's Military Intelligence Division, a careful man who trusted evidence more than emotion. His face showed concern as he approached the admiral. "You need to see this," he said. Tanaka took the tablet and scrolled through the data. Her eyes narrowed. "This makes no sense." "No, it does not," Wright agreed. "The attack was conducted with coalition weapons. The ships carried coalition markings, but the tactical patterns are all wrong." "Explain." Wright pulled up a three-dimensional map of the colony. Red dots mark the impact points of enemy fire. Coalition doctrine emphasizes capturing infrastructure intact. They always target military installations first, then government buildings. Civilian areas are last priority. They want to occupy, not destroy. But here the attackers went straight for civilian targets. The school was hit first, then the hospital, then residential areas. The power station and water treatment facility were barely touched. That makes no sense if you want to conquer a world. It only makes sense if you want to kill as many people as possible. Tanaka set down the tablet. The grief in her chest was changing, becoming something colder. Someone wanted this to look like a coalition attack. "That is my conclusion, Admiral. But I needed to be sure before I brought it to you. Because of my daughter." Wright nodded slowly. "I know you want revenge. Everyone does. But if we attack the wrong enemy, we become exactly what they want us to be. Puppets dancing to someone else's music." Tanaka stood and walked to the window. Stars filled the darkness outside. Somewhere out there, the real killers were watching and waiting. She had devoted her life to protecting Earth. She would not let her grief turn her into a weapon for humanity's enemies. "Assemble an investigation team," she ordered. "We go to New Helsinki. We find the truth, whatever it is." The Resolute arrived at New Helsinki 2 days later. Tanaka led the investigation personally, walking through the ruins with a team of specialists. They collected fragments of weapons, recorded radiation signatures, analyzed debris patterns. Every piece of evidence told the same story: coalition equipment, non-coalition tactics. On the third day, they found Maria Santos. The survivor was living in a temporary shelter with her daughter. Both were thin and pale, marked by trauma that would take years to heal. When Tanaka introduced herself, Maria's eyes widened. "You're the Admiral. I saw you on the news." "I lost my daughter in the attack," Tanaka said quietly. "Like you lost your husband." Maria nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I need your help, Mrs. Santos. I need you to tell me everything you remember about that day. Every detail, no matter how small." They talked for hours. Maria described the ships descending through the clouds. She described the weapons firing. She described the sounds and the smells and the heat. Tanaka listened without interrupting, recording everything. Then Maria said something that changed everything. "The soldiers," she whispered. "When the ships landed, soldiers came out. They were wearing coalition uniforms. But something was wrong with them." "Wrong how?" "They moved wrong. Coalition soldiers march in formation. Everyone knows that. But these soldiers moved differently. They spread out in small groups. They communicated with hand signals. And they—" Maria's voice trailed off. She was shaking. "What did they do?" Tanaka asked gently. "They went door to door. They made sure everyone was dead. They checked bodies and shot anyone who was still breathing. Coalition soldiers take prisoners. They follow rules of war. These soldiers didn't take anyone. They killed everyone they found." Tanaka leaned back. The coalition was not perfect, but they were civilized. They followed the Galactic Convention on Warfare. They did not execute wounded civilians. The Vrexians, however, were known for leaving no survivors. "Thank you, Mrs. Santos. You have been very helpful." Tanaka returned to the Resolute and called an emergency meeting. Her senior officers gathered in the briefing room, their faces grim. She shared Maria's testimony and her own conclusions. "This was not a coalition attack," she said. "This was a false flag operation. Someone wanted us to blame the coalition. Someone wanted us to join the war on their side. The Vrexians, Commander Wright said, they're the only ones who benefit from this. But how do we prove it? Asked Captain Chen, the ship's security officer. The evidence points to the coalition. If we accuse the Vrexians without proof, no one will believe us. Tanaka had already considered this problem. We need to find the source. Those weapons came from somewhere. Those ships were manufactured somewhere. If we can trace the supply chain, we can prove the deception. That will take time, Wright warned. And the people at home are demanding action now. Then we give them action, just not the action they expect. Tanaka opened a secure channel to Earth Command. Her report was detailed and thorough. She explained the tactical inconsistencies. She shared Maria's testimony. She presented her theory of Rexian involvement. The response came directly from President Williams. Admiral, are you certain about this? As certain as I can be, sir. I know everyone wants someone to blame. I know the coalition makes an easy target. But if we attack them now, we're doing exactly what the real killers want. The president was quiet for a long moment. Tanaka knew he was facing enormous pressure. The public wanted blood. Politicians wanted war. The evidence seemed clear. And here she was, asking him to wait. What do you need? He finally asked. Time, resources, and authorization to pursue this investigation wherever it leads. You have all three. Find the truth, Admiral, whatever it costs. Over the following weeks, Tanaka's team worked tirelessly. They traced weapons serial numbers through black market dealers. They analyzed ship debris for manufacturing signatures. They intercepted communications that had been thought secure. Piece by piece, the picture came together. The weapons had been purchased through a Vrexian shell company. The ships had been built in secret shipyards deep in Dominion territory. The soldiers had been mercenaries, recruited from a dozen different species, trained in Vrexian combat techniques. And there was more. Earth's intelligence network had long maintained contacts in unexpected places. One of those contacts was a human who had been working for the Vrexians for years. His name was Marcus Cole. He had organized the entire operation. Tanaka read his file with cold fury. Cole had been born on Earth. He had served in the military. He had sworn an oath to protect humanity, and he had sold his people for Vrexian gold. We have enough, Wright said. We can prove Vrexian involvement. We can expose Cole. The question is what we do next. Tanaka looked at the evidence one final time. Her daughter's face appeared in her mind. So did the faces of 40,000 others who had died for a lie. We send everything to Earth Command, she said. Let the president decide, but I will make a recommendation. Which is? Tanaka's eyes were hard as stone. The Vrexians wanted to trick us into fighting their war. They murdered our people to manipulate us. They thought we were tools to be used and discarded. She stood and faced her officers. It is time to show them what happens when you make war on Earth. The report reached President Williams on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday evening, he had convened an emergency session of the World Council. By Wednesday, every government on Earth had seen the evidence. The coalition watched nervously. They had expected human ships to arrive at their borders with guns blazing. Instead, there was only silence. Then on Thursday, Ambassador Chen Wei requested an emergency session of the Galactic Coalition Council. She stood alone on the speaking platform, just as she had done so many times before. But this time, her message was different. We know the truth, she said. We know who killed our people, and we know why. She turned to face High Chancellor Vorix directly. The Vrexians wanted us to destroy you. They murdered 40,000 innocent humans to turn us into their weapon. They thought we were stupid. They thought we were blind. They were wrong. The chamber was completely silent. Even Vorix's mandibles had stopped moving. Earth has maintained neutrality for 200 years, Chen Wei continued. We believe this war was not our war. We were wrong about that too. When the Vrexians attacked our people, they made it personal. They made it our war. She took a deep breath. The human fleet will mobilize within 72 hours, but we will not attack the coalition. We will not do what our enemies want. Instead, we will show the galaxy what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of humanity's rage. Commander Thrax, we are coming for you. The galaxy had never paid much attention to Earth's military capabilities. For 200 years, humanity had stayed out of galactic affairs. Their ships traveled the neutral lanes carrying supplies and refugees. Their soldiers guarded their borders and nothing more. Intelligence agencies across the galaxy estimated Earth's fleet at perhaps 300 vessels. Respectable for a single-system civilization, but nothing compared to the great powers. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. Deep in the asteroid belt of Sol system, massive doors began to open for the first time in decades. Hidden facilities, carved into rocks the size of small moons, revealed their secrets. Ships emerged from the darkness. Not hundreds, thousands. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the Avalon. It was twice the size of the Resolute and carried weapons that had never been tested in combat. Around her, similar vessels took formation. Each one was a masterpiece of human engineering, built in secret over generations. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her communications officer announced. Tanaka nodded. "Open a channel to the fleet." Her image appeared on screens across thousands of ships. Hundreds of thousands of crew members stopped what they were doing to listen. 200 years ago, humanity looked at the galaxy and made a choice. We chose not to fight. We chose not to kill. We chose to stay neutral while others tore each other apart. Some called us cowards. Some called us fools. We did not care. We knew the truth. She paused, letting her words sink in. We stayed neutral because we could. We stayed out of the war because it was not worth fighting. Not because we were weak. Not because we were afraid. We built these ships in secret, hoping we would never need them. We developed weapons the galaxy has never seen, praying they would rust in storage forever. Her expression hardened. That prayer was not answered. Commander Thrax murdered our people. He tried to use us as weapons against his enemies. He thought humanity was a tool to be manipulated. He was wrong. We are not tools. We are not puppets. We are humans. Across the fleet, crews stood a little straighter. Hands gripped controls a little tighter. In 72 hours, we will give Commander Thrax a choice. Surrender the war criminals responsible for New Helsinki. Pay reparations to the victims' families, or face the consequences. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I do not expect him to choose wisely. Prepare for war. The channel closed. Across Sol system, engines began to warm. The human fleet moved toward the edge of the solar system, toward the jump points that would take them to Vrexian space. In the Galactic Coalition Council, pandemonium reigned. Representatives shouted at each other, unable to process what they were seeing. Earth's fleet was not 300 ships. It was not even 3,000. Early estimates suggested over 10,000 vessels, and more were still emerging from hidden facilities. High Chancellor Vorex watched the sensor data with compound eyes that struggled to believe what they saw. How is this possible? We have monitored Earth for centuries. We saw nothing. His intelligence advisor stood nearby, looking very small and very frightened. They built underground, Chancellor, in asteroids, on the dark side of their moon. They used materials and techniques we did not know existed. They were hiding in plain sight, and we never suspected. Their technology? Unknown. Our sensors cannot fully analyze their ships. Their hull materials are unfamiliar. Their power signatures are strange. Vorex turned to face his advisor directly. Strange how? They appear to be generating more energy than should be physically possible. Either our understanding of physics is wrong, or humans have discovered something we have not. In his private office, Vorex contacted his coalition allies. The same conversation was happening across 100 worlds. Everyone asked the same questions. Everyone received the same answers. No one knew what humanity was capable of, but they were about to find out. Commander Thrax received the news on his flagship. His aide delivered the report nervously, expecting anger. Instead, Thrax laughed. 10,000 ships? Impossible. Human propaganda. They want us to think they are stronger than they are. Sir, the sensor data has been confirmed by multiple sources, including our own deep space observers. Thrax's laughter faded. He studied the report more carefully. The numbers were clear. The images were unmistakable. Earth was not bluffing. Even if these numbers are accurate, it does not matter, he said finally. Our fleet number is over 12,000. We have been at war for 2 centuries. We are experienced. We are ruthless. These humans have never fought a real battle. Their ships are untested. Their crews are soft. What about their technology? Technology means nothing without the will to use it. Humans are peaceful by nature. They will hesitate. They will try to negotiate. And in that moment of weakness, we will destroy them. Thrax stood and walked to his command chair. His confidence was returning. The humans had made a terrible mistake by revealing their fleet. Now he knew what he was facing. Now he could plan. Send orders to all fleet commanders. We gather at the nexus point. We will meet the human fleet before it reaches our space. We will crush them so completely that no one will ever challenge the Dominion again. As the Vrexian fleet assembled, Earth scientists worked around the clock. In laboratories across the planet, final tests were conducted on weapons that had only existed in theory until now. Dr. Sarah Chen led the team responsible for the phase drive. It was humanity's greatest secret, a propulsion system that moved ships through dimensions that other species did not know existed. Ships equipped with phase drives could appear and disappear at will. They could pass through solid matter. They could be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Final calibration complete, she reported to Admiral Tanaka via secure channel. All fleet vessels are equipped and operational. Any limitations I should know about? The drives require significant power. Ships can only maintain phase state for about 30 minutes before needing to recharge. Also, weapons cannot be fired while phased. You will need to solidify before engaging. Tanaka nodded. 30 minutes was more than enough. And the pacifier systems? Dr. Chen's expression shifted. The pacifiers were her other project, and she had complicated feelings about them. Ready for deployment, they will disable enemy vessels without destroying them. Engines, weapons, life support, everything goes offline simultaneously. The crew will be helpless, but alive. You seem troubled. I am a scientist, Admiral. I built these weapons to protect people, not to use them in war. We are using them to protect people, Tanaka said gently. 40,000 of our people are dead. If we do not act, more will die. And by disabling rather than destroying, we save Rexian lives too, even though they do not deserve it. Dr. Chen was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. You are right. I just hope we never have to build weapons again. So do I, Doctor. So do I. The 72 hours passed quickly. Commander Thrax ignored Earth's ultimatum. He called Ambassador Chen Wei's broadcast a bluff and a lie. He promised to crush the human fleet and then burn Earth itself. His confidence seemed justified. The Vrexian Armada was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 12,000 ships of war, crewed by soldiers who had known nothing but combat their entire lives. They gathered at the nexus point, a strategic location between Vrexian and human space, and waited. They did not wait long. The human fleet arrived without warning. One moment sensors showed empty space. The next moment 10,000 ships filled the void. They had not jumped through normal space. They had simply appeared as if stepping through an invisible door. Thrax stared at his tactical display. That is impossible. No jump drive can be so precise. No fleet can coordinate so perfectly. His aide had no answer. Neither did anyone else. Admiral Tanaka opened a final communication channel. Her face appeared on every screen in the Vrexian fleet. Commander Thrax, you have ignored our ultimatum. You have refused to surrender the criminals responsible for New Helsinki. You have chosen war. She paused. So be it. The human fleet began to move. They advanced in perfect formation, each ship maintaining exact position relative to the others. The Vrexians opened fire with everything they had. Thousands of weapons discharged simultaneously. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the two fleets. None of them hit. The human ships phased out of reality an instant before impact. They became ghosts, visible but untouchable. The Vrexian weapons passed through them harmlessly and vanished into empty space. Then the ghosts became solid again, and they were inside the Vrexian formation. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 4 hours. Human ships danced through the Vrexian fleet like shadows. They appeared, fired their pacifier weapons, and disappeared before anyone could react. One by one, Vrexian vessels went dark. Their engines died. Their weapons went silent. Their crews found themselves floating in space, alive but utterly helpless. Thrax watched his fleet crumble. He ordered charges. He ordered retreats. He ordered tactics that had worked against the Coalition for decades. Nothing helped. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They could not be hit. They could not be stopped. By the fourth hour, it was over. 12,000 Vrexian ships drifted in space, disabled but intact. Not one had been destroyed. Not one crew member had been killed. But the Dominion's entire military force had been captured in a single day. Thrax stood alone on his darkened bridge. Emergency lights cast red shadows across his face. His weapons were offline. His engines were dead. He could do nothing but wait as human soldiers boarded his vessel. Admiral Tanaka came personally. She walked onto the bridge with a squad of Marines at her back and stopped in front of the Vrexian commander. He was taller than her by half a meter. His claws could have torn her apart. But he did not move. "Commander Thrax," she said calmly, "you are under arrest for war crimes against humanity. You will be transported to Earth to stand trial. If you cooperate, your crew will be treated humanely." Thrax's yellow eyes burned with hatred. "You think you have won? You think this is over? The Dominion will never surrender. We will rebuild, we will return, and we will destroy your precious Earth." Tanaka smiled slightly. "No, you will not." She turned and walked away. Behind her, Marines secured the Vrexian commander in restraints designed for his species. He would face justice for what he had done, and across the galaxy, the word was spreading. Humanity had finally entered the war, and they had won it in a single day. News of the battle at Nexus Point spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Every species with access to communications heard the same unbelievable story. The Vrexian Dominion, the great terror of the galaxy, had been defeated in 4 hours. Not by the Coalition they had fought for 2 centuries. By Earth. By the neutral humans who had refused to fight for so long. And the strangest part, no one had died. High Chancellor Vorax watched the footage in his private chambers. Human ships phasing through solid matter. Vrexian vessels going dark one after another. 12,000 warships captured intact, their crews alive and unharmed. It was impossible. It was miraculous. It was terrifying. His aide entered quietly. "Chancellor, the human ambassador requests an audience." "Send her in." Ambassador Chen Wei walked into the chamber with the same calm dignity she had always shown. Nothing in her manner suggested that her people had just performed the greatest military feat in galactic history. She bowed slightly and waited. "Ambassador," Vorax said carefully, "I must admit I do not know what to say." "Then perhaps I should speak first, Chancellor." Chen Wei's voice was gentle but firm. "Earth has disabled the Vorexian fleet. We have captured Commander Thrax and his senior officers. The immediate threat has been neutralized. And what happens now? Will Earth occupy Vrexian space? Will you demand tribute? Will you become the new masters of the galaxy?" Chen Wei shook her head. "We will do none of those things." Vorax's compound eyes flickered with confusion. "I do not understand. You have won. The Dominion lies at your feet. You could rule the galaxy if you chose." "Yes, we could." Chen Wei paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Chancellor, do you know why humanity stayed neutral for 200 years? Because you were afraid. Because you were weak. Because—" Vorax stopped himself. Those explanations seemed foolish now. "No, I do not know why. We stayed neutral because we saw what this war was doing to everyone who fought it. The Coalition and the Dominion have been killing each other for generations. Both sides have committed atrocities. Both sides have forgotten what they were fighting for. We looked at this conflict and saw only suffering, on all sides. We did not want to add to that suffering. Yet you built a secret fleet. You developed weapons of immense power. Because we knew that someday someone would force us to fight, we hoped that day would never come. When it did, we wanted to be ready." Chen Wei's expression softened. "But being ready to fight does not mean we wanted to fight, and winning does not mean we want to rule." Vorax was quiet for a long moment. In 200 years of war, no one had spoken to him like this. No one had offered victory and then refused to claim it. "What do you want, Ambassador?" "Peace." The word hung in the air. Simple, impossible, real. "The Vrexian Dominion has been defeated," Chenwei continued. "Their fleet is disabled, not destroyed. Their soldiers are prisoners, not corpses. They can be rebuilt or they can be transformed. That choice is not ours to make alone. It belongs to all of us, human, coalition, and Vrexian alike." While diplomats talked, Admiral Tanaka led the next phase of Earth's operation. The Vrexian military had not consisted only of the fleet at Nexus Point. Across Dominion space, forward bases, supply depots, and defensive stations still operated. Any one of them could begin rebuilding the Vrexian war machine if left untouched. Human strike teams appeared simultaneously at every major installation. They emerged from phase space without warning, disabling defenses before anyone could react. Station after station went dark. Base after base surrendered without a shot being fired. Captain Marcus Park led the team that secured the Vrexian intelligence headquarters. It was located on a moon orbiting the Dominion's secondary homeworld, buried deep underground behind layers of armor and shields. None of that mattered. His team phased through the walls and appeared inside the command center before the Vrexians knew they were under attack. "Everyone step away from the consoles," Park announced calmly. "Keep your hands where we can see them. Anyone who resists will be stunned." The Vrexian officers stared at him with a mixture of fear and disbelief. They were soldiers, trained for combat, but they had never faced an enemy who could appear out of thin air. They did not know how to fight ghosts. One officer reached for a weapon. Park fired his stunner before the Vrexian's hand reached the holster. The officer collapsed, unconscious but unharmed. "Anyone else?" Park asked. No one moved. "Good choice." Within an hour, the intelligence headquarters was secured. Earth's technicians began downloading every file in the Vrexian database. 2 centuries of war had generated mountains of data. Battle plans, spy networks, secret research, hidden resources. All of it now belonged to humanity, and buried in those files, they found what they were looking for. Marcus Cole, the human traitor who had organized the New Helsinki massacre. His location was in the Vrexian records. He was hiding on a remote station at the edge of Dominion space, waiting for the war to end, waiting to collect his reward. Admiral Tanaka received the report personally. She studied Cole's file with cold fury. The man had been born on Earth, raised on Earth, educated on Earth. He had served in the military with distinction. Then he had sold his people for money. "Send a team," she ordered. "Bring him back alive. He will face justice." 24 hours later, Marcus Cole sat in a cell on the Avalon. He was a thin man with nervous eyes and hands that would not stop shaking. He knew what was coming. He knew there was no escape. Tanaka visited him once. She stood outside his cell and looked at him for a long moment. He would not meet her eyes. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why did you do it?" Cole's voice was barely a whisper. "They offered me wealth beyond imagination. They offered me power. They said the Vrexians would win eventually anyway. I just wanted to be on the winning side. 40,000 people died because of you. 40,000 innocent people, families, children, my daughter." Cole finally looked up. His eyes were wet with tears. "I did not know they would kill everyone. They told me it would be a limited strike, just enough to provoke Earth. I did not know." "You did not want to know." Tanaka's voice was ice. "You closed your eyes and took the money. You told yourself it was not your fault, but it was. Every death, every scream, every child who died in their parents' arms, you are responsible for all of it." She turned and walked away. Cole called after her, begging for mercy, begging for understanding. She did not look back. The cleanup of Vrexian military infrastructure took 2 weeks. When it was finished, the Dominion had no functioning military. Their ships drifted in space, disabled but recoverable. Their bases were occupied by human peacekeepers. Their soldiers were prisoners held in temporary camps where they received food, medical care, and information about what was happening. Many of them did not believe it at first. They had been taught since birth that other species were enemies, that mercy was weakness, that the only options were conquest or death. The idea that they could lose completely and still be treated humanely made no sense to them. Slowly that began to change. Vrexian prisoners talked to their human guards. They asked questions. They listened to answers. They learned that the humans had not destroyed a single ship, had not killed a single soldier, had not bombed a single city. They learned that their families at home were safe, that the war was truly over, that something new was beginning. Some prisoners remained angry and bitter. They would take years to accept the new reality. But others began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, the Dominion had been wrong about everything. In the Galactic Coalition Council, a historic session convened. For the first time in 2 centuries, there were 3 flags on the speaking platform instead of 2. The blue and silver of the Coalition, the red and black of the Dominion, and the blue and green of Earth. Ambassador Chen Wei stood between the representatives of the 2 great powers. High Chancellor Vorix represented the Coalition. Supreme Counselor Thress, newly appointed after Thrax's arrest, represented what remained of the Dominion. This war has lasted 200 years, Chen Wei began. It has killed billions. It has destroyed countless worlds. It has left scars that will take generations to heal. But today, it ends. She turned to face both leaders. Earth did not enter this conflict to conquer. We entered to stop the violence and to seek justice for our murdered people. Justice has been served. Commander Thrax will stand trial for his crimes. Those who helped him will face judgment. But the Vrexian people are not our enemies. The war is over. Counselor Thress spoke carefully. Earth has shown mercy that we did not expect and do not understand. We have been defeated, yet we have not been destroyed. Why? Because destruction creates nothing, Chen Wei replied. The Coalition and the Dominion have been trying to destroy each other for centuries. It has only created more death. Earth chooses a different path. We offer peace instead of conquest, reconstruction instead of revenge, a future instead of more war. And what do you ask in return? Vorix inquired. Chen Wei smiled slightly. We ask that you try something new. Instead of fighting each other, try working together. Instead of seeing each other as enemies, try seeing each other as potential friends. It will not be easy. Old hatreds run deep. But it is possible if you choose it. The chamber was silent. 200 years of war had created assumptions that were difficult to break. Both sides had lost so much, sacrificed so much, that the idea of simply stopping seemed almost impossible. Then Counselor Thress stood. The Dominion accepts Earth's terms. We will pay reparations for New Helsinki. We will cooperate with the War Crimes Tribunal. And we will try this new path, even though we do not know where it leads. High Chancellor Vorix rose as well. The Coalition accepts as well. We have been enemies for too long. Perhaps it is time to learn to be something else. Chen Wei nodded. Then let us begin. The trial of Commander Thrax began on a cold morning in Geneva. The old United Nations building had been converted into an interstellar court, with seating for representatives of every major species. Cameras broadcast the proceedings to billions of viewers across the galaxy. For the first time in history, a war criminal from one species would face judgment under a legal system created by another. Thrax sat behind a force field, wearing simple prisoner's clothing instead of his military uniform. His yellow eyes moved constantly, scanning the courtroom, looking for weakness, looking for escape. He found neither. Admiral Tanaka sat in the gallery, wearing civilian clothes. She was not here as a military officer. She was here as a witness, as a victim, as the woman whose daughter had died because of the creature behind that force field. The prosecutor was a human woman named Dr. Helena Ross. She had spent her entire career studying galactic law and developing frameworks for interspecies justice. Now she stood before the court and presented the case against Thrax with calm precision. The defendant ordered the attack on New Helsinki colony. He personally authorized the use of mercenary forces wearing coalition uniforms. He approved the targeting of civilian infrastructure, including schools and hospitals. He oversaw a massacre designed to manipulate humanity into destroying his enemies. Evidence appeared on screens throughout the courtroom: intercepted communications, financial records, testimony from captured mercenaries. The case was overwhelming. Thrax had not even tried to hide his involvement. He had been so confident of victory that he had left a trail a child could follow. The defendant is charged with 40,000 counts of murder, Dr. Ross continued. He is charged with conspiracy to commit genocide. He is charged with falsifying evidence to provoke a war. And he is charged with crimes against peace for attempting to expand the galactic conflict beyond its original boundaries. Thrax's defense attorney, a Vrexian lawyer who had reluctantly accepted the assignment, rose to speak. My client maintains that all actions were taken as part of legitimate military operations. The coalition has committed similar acts during this war. Targeting the commander of one side while ignoring the crimes of the other is hypocritical at best. Dr. Ross shook her head. The crimes of others do not excuse the defendant's crimes. Justice requires that we hold individuals accountable for their own actions. Commander Thrax chose to murder 40,000 innocent people. He chose to target children. He chose to try to start a new war. Those choices were his alone. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Witness after witness took the stand. Survivors of New Helsinki described the horror of the attack. Intelligence analysts explained how the false flag operation had been planned. Military experts confirmed that the tactics used were inconsistent with coalition doctrine. Maria Santos testified on the 4th day. She spoke quietly, her hands gripping the podium as she described watching her home burn, watching her husband die, watching soldiers execute wounded civilians. When she finished, even some Vrexian observers looked uncomfortable. Thrax showed no emotion. He sat behind his force field and watched with cold eyes. He never apologized. He never expressed regret. When given the opportunity to speak in his own defense, he stood straight and faced the court with defiance. I did what was necessary for the Dominion, he said. War requires sacrifice. The humans who died were acceptable losses. If I had succeeded, the coalition would have fallen, and the Dominion would have ruled the galaxy. History would have remembered me as a hero. History will remember you as a monster, Dr. Ross replied, and justice will be served. The verdict came on a Friday afternoon. The panel of judges, drawn from 12 different species, found Thrax guilty on all counts. The sentence was life imprisonment on a maximum security facility orbiting a dead star. He would never threaten anyone again. As guards led him away, Thrax looked directly at Admiral Tanaka. Their eyes met. He smiled, a cold, cruel expression. You think you have won, he said, but this is not over. The Dominion will remember. Someday someone will finish what I started. Tanaka did not look away. Perhaps, but that day will not come in your lifetime. And every year that passes, the hatred will fade a little more. Someday, people will look back on this war and wonder why it ever happened. They will build monuments to peace instead of war, and your name will be forgotten. The guards took him away. Tanaka watched him go, then turned and walked out of the courtroom into the bright afternoon sun. Marcus Cole's trial followed a week later. It was smaller, less dramatic, but in some ways more tragic. Cole had been a hero once. He had served with distinction. He had been trusted, and he had thrown it all away. The evidence against him was equally overwhelming. Communications with Vrexian intelligence, financial records showing massive payments to hidden accounts, testimony from mercenaries who had taken orders from him. He had organized everything, recruited the soldiers, obtained the weapons, planned the attack routes. Unlike Thrax, Cole broke down on the stand. He wept. He begged for forgiveness. He claimed he had not understood what would happen, that he had been deceived, that he was not really responsible. No one believed him. You made a choice, the judge said when delivering the sentence. You chose money over your own people. You chose power over principle. You helped murder 40,000 innocent human beings. For that, there can be no forgiveness. Cole received the same sentence as Thrax, life imprisonment. As guards led him away, he looked at the gallery, searching for a friendly face, finding none. His family had disowned him. His friends had abandoned him. He would spend the rest of his life alone, remembered only as a traitor. With the trials concluded, the real work began. Peace was not simply the absence of war. It was a construction project that required as much effort as any military campaign. Ambassador Chen Wei led Earth's diplomatic team through months of negotiations. The Galactic Accord, as it came to be called, established new frameworks for interspecies cooperation, trade agreements, scientific exchanges, cultural programs, a permanent council where disputes could be resolved with words instead of weapons. The coalition and the Dominion sent representatives who had once commanded fleets against each other. They sat at the same table now, struggling to see each other as partners instead of enemies. Progress was slow, old hatreds surfaced regularly, but step by step, they moved forward. Admiral Tanaka retired from active service. She had done what she set out to do: find the truth about New Helsinki and bring the killers to justice. Now it was time for others to carry the burden. She visited New Helsinki 1 year after the attack. The ruins had been cleared. New buildings were rising where old ones had burned. Memorials marked the places where the dead had fallen. The colony was being rebuilt, not as it had been, but as something new. Maria Santos still lived there. She was working as a community organizer, helping survivors reconnect and rebuild their lives. Her daughter was in school again, learning and playing and slowly healing from the trauma she had witnessed. "Thank you," Maria said when Tanaka found her, "for everything, for finding the truth, for bringing justice." "It was not enough," Tanaka replied. "Nothing could bring them back." "No, but you gave us something else. You gave us closure. You showed us that our people did not die for nothing, that their deaths led to peace instead of more war." Tanaka nodded slowly. She thought of her own daughter buried on Earth, never forgotten. The pain would never completely go away. But maybe Maria was right. Maybe something good had come from all the suffering. "What will you do now?" Maria asked. "I do not know. For the first time in my life, I have no mission, no enemy to fight, no war to win. Maybe that is the best victory of all." Earth returned to its neutral lanes and its peaceful ways. But something had changed. The galaxy knew now what humanity was capable of. They knew that Earth's pacifism was a choice, not a weakness. They knew that if humanity chose to fight, they could defeat anyone. That knowledge, paradoxically, made peace possible. No one wanted to provoke the humans again. No one wanted to face ships that could phase through solid matter, weapons that could disable entire fleets without killing anyone. The threat of Earth's power made its power unnecessary. Ambassador Chen Wei gave her final address to the Galactic Council 5 years after the war ended. The chamber was fuller than ever before, with representatives from species that had never participated in galactic politics. The future was uncertain, but it was also bright with possibility. "Humanity stayed out of the galaxy's wars for 200 years, she said. "When we finally entered, we showed that there was another way. Not conquest, not destruction, but justice, mercy, and peace. These are not weaknesses. They are the greatest strengths any civilization can possess." She looked around the chamber at faces from 100 worlds. "We built our secret fleet hoping we would never use it. We developed our weapons praying they would never fire. When we were forced to fight, we fought to end the fighting, not to perpetuate it. That is humanity's true nature. Not war, not peace, but the wisdom to know when each is necessary and the strength to choose mercy when victory is assured." She stepped back from the podium. "The war is over. Let us build something better." In the years that followed, they did. The Galactic Accord grew stronger. Old enemies became trading partners, then allies, then friends. The scars of 2 centuries of war slowly healed. And throughout the galaxy, people told stories of the humans who could have ruled everything and chose to rule nothing. Earth stayed out of the galaxy's battles until the enemy made it personal. And when humanity finally fought, they won not just the war, but the peace that followed. That was their true victory. That was their legacy. That was what made them human.